everyone, coming to you again with my final video. Yes, my final video. And what I decided to do with this video is I decided that I wanted to talk about kind of random things that have to do with a lot of what I discuss on this channel, and just to give you a little bit of personal kind of take as to my likes and different things that I find to be fairly cool and interesting when it comes to movies, music, books, and just random stuff too. And I want to take this opportunity to, in this video, to thank everyone, and I want to also talk about what is to be expected coming in December when I come back from my long semester. So without further ado, let me discuss a little bit that I wanted to discuss. And the first thing is kind of random. And the first thing is kind of having to do with again, the Nostalgia Critic, because I thought, like, why not in my last video bring up the Nostalgia Critic. There was a little bit of dust in my way. And I figured, why not talk about the video or the movies that he likes but I don't like. And the problem was, it's not only is it difficult because a lot of the time I find myself more agreeing with him, but also because I haven't really seen a lot of the films that he's seen. Like, I haven't seen Unbreakable. I've only seen parts of it. I haven't seen, like, Brazil or any of the movies really that he watches, so I guess I'm very unfamiliar to these kinds of films that he watches. So it was really hard for me to pick out really anything that I could find. And the only thing that I found to be, that I found myself, I guess, disagreeing with him on was maybe Spider-Man 3. He claims to like Spider-Man 3, and he thinks that the pros outweigh the cons. I disagree. I think the cons outweigh the pros. But again, I think he does mention a few points as to how it is trying to, I think, branch out and be something different than the other two were. But I guess the main problems that I have with it is just I feel it's just too forced. And I really didn't care about the romance. He claims to have cared before he didn't. I really didn't care about the romance between Peter Parker and Mary Jane all that much to begin with, but I found myself caring more in the first two than caring in this, because it felt like that their arguments were just kind of just very petty, and the fact that she wouldn't, tell him certain things, and that she clearly could have told towards the second half of the film, really, I think, drags it down into the fact that it seems like the couple doesn't even know when to be, like, clearly open with one another. And it seems like that they just don't really have problems that seem so deep. And the thing is though, too, is that in the other films he mentions that, the third film was touching on, like, realism, and the other two, the romance, it wasn't really realistic at all. But I disagree. I think in the second one it was fairly realistic when, like, Peter was missing out on things and wasn't really trying to be a part of Mary Jane's life because he had all these other things going on. I think that's very realistic. I mean, I think that can happen to couples. Like, you get so wrapped up in your work, or you get so wrapped up and caught up in whatever's going on in your life, and living a secret life sometimes isn't all that easy. So I think, in a sense, it makes more sense to me Whereas the third one, I think it only lightly touches on it and doesn't seem to, I think, explore it a lot of that aspect, and I just didn't really find myself really enjoying it, even though there's a lot of creativity in it. And I think the problem, though, too, is just I think Peter's character in the third one just really got under my skin, because I just thought he was very, like, just annoying, and I just didn't think he had that same kind of likability like the first two had. It seemed like his character was just like all over the place, and them trying to use comedy. I understand if people think it's funny. I didn't personally think it was that great. I mean, I didn't really know what to laugh at. I just thought it was just awkward. And I thought that we were going to get into actually something really dark, because again, we're dealing with this suit in the third movie. And really, I don't feel the dark aspect to this movie at all. I don't feel Peter's torment. I don't feel anything. It almost seems like all of that happens off screen, and you don't see any of it. And I think that's the problem, because I think they could have done so much more creatively, and so much more and do things in so much more of a productive way if they actually showed us more of him in the suit. But it seems like you just see like the effects of the suit, but you don't really see how the effects really mess with Peter's mind. And I think that not seeing that doesn't allow me to get behind his character and maybe sympathize with him, because there's nothing that shows me this actual problem that he has with the suit, because it seems like all of that just happens off camera, and we don't really get a glimpse as to like the suit having like a mind, or the suit having something that messes with Peter. It doesn't seem like that. It seems like all of that is off screen, and then they just focus on him being and he's supposed to be like a monster almost, and really be very forceful. And even though he is forceful at times, it does seem like they try to sugarcoat this with like this comedy in it. And when he's like walking down the street, and I heard from people that they just walked out like right after he started like dancing and stuff, and trying to do the pelvic thrust and all that. I just kind of was going, are they really trying to do this? I mean, I don't know what to feel about this now. Okay, should I laugh now because it's funny, even though the suit is supposed to be like torturing him somehow? I don't really see the torture in here. I just see him like having a different hairstyle and going to buy new clothes. It seems like that there is a lot of filler in there that they could have been focused on a lot of other things. But I do admire like the creativity, like the Nostalgia Critic said, with like the Sandman and stuff. I think that's cool, but none of it is fully explored. And it's the same thing with Venom. We don't really get a sense of anything with Venom, and we barely get any of him. And it just sort of ends, and yeah, I feel like the cheesiness, even though the first two movies, I think, even though I knew that they were pretty much really cheesy comic book movies, at least they seem to kind of carry this kind of, I guess you could say this seriousness to it, and it knew when to take itself seriously. But this film doesn't really know when to take itself seriously, because it's trying to blend in this comedy with this whole drama aspect, and it just doesn't work for me. I mean, I don't know why they would do that, and it's just a really big problem with me, because I don't sympathize with the romance. I really don't. I don't care for Peter's character in this movie, and there's nobody really for me to cling on to, even though I do sympathize with some of like the side characters. but it just feels like that it was. I would just rather watch the second and the first movie. I would just rather watch that and skip the third movie, because I just felt like that these problems somehow stood out more than the problems that were in the first and the second movie. It seemed like they just seemed so more exposed, especially when Sam Raimi is trying to put in this comedy aspect to it and mix it in with the whole drama. And for me, that doesn't really work, because it doesn't feel like it fits to the story, and it doesn't feel like it fits for Peter's character. He's supposed to have kind of a dark life. I mean, he's had a dark life pretty much in the second and the first movie, but they seem to kind of keep this colory Avenger type aspect to it. But now they kind of switch over and try to do dark, but he doesn't seem like he knows how to do dark. And then I think that, and I understand if people maybe like Sam Raimi's versions than the newer one that just came out, that's a little more darker, a little more edgier. But I think that for the most part, it seems like that the characters aren't really all that interesting, I think. And there's nothing really for me to cling on to. I guess I wouldn't find myself minding watching it, but I wouldn't really find myself really enjoying it, as I would if you were to say if we would watch the second or the first movie. Because I think it was trying to push this in this new direction, but I just think it pushed it, in doing so, trying to push it to a new direction, push it in the wrong direction. And then you kind of get this mishmash. And I think even the nostalgia critic pointed out that the biggest, like, awkward moments, like when he did, like, awkward Spider-Man moments, when he talked about, like, all the moments that really were just odd and out of place. Yeah, there were. The second and the first movie did have their oddities, but it seemed like the third stood out the most, to me at least, from what he was explaining. And I think people feel like that the third just sank it down to a new low. And I understand that, and I kind of agree more that it has more cons for me than it has pros. But it still has the pros of being creative, trying to branch out from the other two. But the problem with that is that it just brings all of this other baggage with it. Especially when it comes to trying to mix the comedy and then with the characters, because the characters I don't think grow anywhere. I don't think they really do anything new, it seems like, for the most part. But that was really the only movie that I found myself saying, I'm sorry, but I just can't be on your side on that. I just can't do it. It would be against, how I feel about it. It would be against my own mentality. So it would be against me. And so that's why I would say that was pretty much the only film that I found that seemed to be seemed to me to say, okay, this is where I kind of just draw the line in the sand and just go, no, no, can't like it, sorry. And I didn't see a lot of the other films that he says he likes, but people don't like I think it was the second Matrix movie that he said he liked. I don't know. I haven't really seen the Matrix movies. The Matrix always creeped me out when I was little, and I couldn't watch it when it came out, so I might watch it at one point, but it's so weird. My dad said it's one of the weirdest movies he's ever seen. So maybe not. And I think that's saying something. And we saw Prometheus together recently, and that was weird too. So there's that. But basically, it's just one of those films where I go, no, I just feel that the characters, I don't think the romance is unique in any way, shape, or form, because again, I think the second one kind of brings up sort of the same problems as the third one does. I think that pretty much I think pretty much into the way the characters are structured is the same as leaving off from the second film, but then going into the third film, and then stuff is revealed and all that stuff, but it doesn't feel grand, it doesn't feel like it's amounting to much. And I think that's probably why a lot of critics in particular don't care for the third Spider-Man, and why a lot of people are sort of angry at the third movie. And I can understand why, and I kind of find myself agreeing more with the people who disliked it than agreeing with the people who did like it. So that's just my opinion. If you got some value out of it and you thought it had potential and it was good, more power to you. Great. I'm happy that you could find something to hold on to, but for me, there was just nothing there, and I didn't remember much, and I just prefer the second and the first movies, even though I know they do have problems in them too. I just feel like that in the third one, there were just these things that kept coming up for me, and every time they would come up, I would suddenly somehow start getting invested to it, and then it would be like a vacuum that would just go, nope, not being invested, not caring anymore. So I think that's really all I can say about this movie. It's good for some people, enjoyable for some people, I'm sure. But for me, I don't know. The movie has its issues, I think, and these issues are just too vocal for me, and they're just too present the whole time throughout the entire thing, and never do I get a sense of care, except when maybe there's something that comes up, but everything else, it's just hard because I don't feel like the characters are anything special, or I don't feel like that the story is anything grand, even though the visuals have a really nice touch to them at points, and the action scenes are done well. I don't feel like it's building, there's like this build up. It seemed like it was just a standalone film, even though it's building up to some things. I think that's just the problems I had with it. So I put myself in more of the dislike category than I do the like category of this movie. I think the dancing and just the awkwardness and just the weird stuff that happens that seems just more odd and doesn't really seem to fit with the story so much, and into Peter's torment, I think just really puts me on that side. So that's just really my personal opinion. You can take that as you wish, but yeah, I think that's just my feelings towards it for the most part. So I wanted to sort of briefly discuss beyond the Nostalgia Critic, because again, I'm kind of talking about random stuff here. I kind of wanted to discuss a little bit of my favorite movie genres. And it's kind of hard to say because I do like a lot of genres. I'm not really particularly picky on genres. I think the only ones that I really don't really like are horror movies. I might make exceptions for like Paranormal Activity or something like that. Uh, but I feel like a lot of horror movies are just done, especially now, for the gore and the guts and all that stuff. And it's even older horror movies, and they're just hard for me to watch. It's really hard for me to sit down and watch them because I suddenly get grossed out, and at points it kind of does want to make me throw up. Just seeing like all of it, just like all these like decapitations or all of this blood or whatever is they show as far as visually, it just grosses me out. And again, I always feel like that a lot of the characters are very in a lot of horror movies are just meant to die, and I don't really care a lot much for them, particularly the characters. And I feel like a lot of the time they try to make this particular monster, like, or person that's chasing them, like, very unsympathetic and very very one note as even a character so much. And I think that's just the problem I have with horror movies in general, from the ones I've seen. Again, I'm not really so familiar with the horror movie genre, but I don't particularly find myself clinging on to that genre and going, yeah, I think it had, I mean, I think some of the older horror films, maybe Psycho or something like that, I think those films can be very insightful. But there are times where I feel like the horror movie genre just really tries to focus more on the gore and not on the mindset or anything, and it's hard for me to enjoy it because I just don't like seeing people get hacked up and torn into pieces and stuff, and people screaming, and it just gives me that tingling in my spine, and I just can't sit through them. No matter how hard I try, I just can't do it. I can watch more movies though. I don't mind seeing somebody, I guess I don't mind it when it's a war film, because it's fairly brief, and it doesn't feel like it's trying to drag it out. But I feel like in a horror film, it's trying to drag and build like this tension or whatnot. But for me, it's just really hard to sit through because I just get freaked out when I see all the guts, and it just scares me. So I just can't. And it's kind of a scared feeling, but also a scary feeling, but also kind of more of a disgusted feeling, because I just can't see somebody get like hacked up into pieces and screaming and then having them like run away, and seeing like this psycho like trying to chase them. It's just I just can't get into it. I totally understand if people like it, but for me, I just can't do it. I'm just not that person, I guess, that can take it. So you'll rarely probably see me review a horror film, unless it's maybe an older movie, maybe like Psycho, or if it's The Shining. I mean, I don't know how graphic The Shining is, or something of that nature. But beyond that, I don't really know if I can find myself reviewing a horror film so much to the extent that it would be something fairly new or recent, because a lot of the ones that come out now are just very, like just gore and hacking people and just I just can't sit through it. But I think that's really the only genre that I find the most dislike of. But it seems like all the other genres, I seem to find something that I like and that I can cling on to. Like, I like romance, I like action, don't mind action. Just as long as you give me kind of a story, I'm okay. with action movies. I don't mind seeing action movies. I don't mind seeing war movies. I don't mind seeing history movies, documentaries, whatever. Don't mind any of those things at all. I don't think I am very picky when it comes to really the genre of a film, but I think for the most part, from what I've seen, it seems like the horror movie category are just the movies that I don't really remember. I don't remember really caring about, and I don't remember really sympathizing with or having any feelings about afterwards. And I think I find a lot of the horror movies of today almost boring, and don't really offer anything interesting or new. But I know that there might be some that I could maybe like. But from what I've seen, for the most part, up to this point, I haven't really found a lot that I can go, wow, I just love this movie. It's kind of like that. But I totally understand if people like horror. I get it if you think it has some potential. But for me, I just never really got myself invested in them. So, but everything else, for the most part, sci-fi I think is cool to a certain extent. I haven't watched a lot of sci-fi though, so need to watch maybe a little bit more sci-fi. As far as other genres go, maybe like drama or such, yeah. Academy movies, yeah. Movies that don't get nominated at all, yeah. I don't think every movie that needs to be made needs to be Academy material. I don't hold to that belief. I think that movies can branch out into other things and don't have to go with an Academy-like formula. They can be creative and they can do whatever they wish to be, or they can do whatever they want, and try to reach out in sort of maybe a different way than something that maybe the Academy wouldn't appreciate. I totally understand that. I think filmmaking should be allowed to dive into all different kinds of realms, no matter how big or small. But I think that's really all I can say. And I apologize if you hear that. I think it's the lawnmower people. They're probably done soon at some point. But basically, I think that's really all I can say as far as movies are concerned. And again, if anybody wants me to maybe look at a movie or whatever, I can try to find it and see if somebody would like me to review it. But I think that's really all I can say about movies. I'm really open-minded when it comes to movies. I'm not really that picky. But there are points where I just kind of say to myself, there are just some points where it gets a little bit more to the point where a movie can be frustrating for me. And like I mentioned, I think Spider-Man 3 was kind of the ones that really frustrated me, like really looking back on it. So yeah, I think that's really all I can say about the movie genres that I care about. I like history too. If they do like history, like a history drama or something with history, I think is always fascinating, interesting. And I'm really looking forward to movies like Lawless, and The Great Gatsby one actually sounds pretty cool. And I'm also really looking forward to The Hobbit because I love fantasy too. And I thought that, from what I can tell, that it should be hopefully a good prequel. I'm hoping, because and I heard that they were going to actually divide it up into either 2s or 3s. I guess the book works more, The Hobbit works as more of a 3-act kind of thing, so they might just do 1 act of a movie, 1 act, 2nd act of a movie, and 3rd. I don't know if that's really necessary, but if it means that we get to see more, and if it means that it's done effectively and done well, then I'm more than open-minded. But hopefully it can be delivered, and looking forward to that. But maybe some other movies will come along, and then I'll be more aware of them, and I'll probably go, maybe I will see that, but who knows. But for the most part, I don't really find myself, I guess, completely saying, no, I will watch a movie because of its genre. I think it's only with maybe horror movies. If you see like a guy with like a chainsaw or something, and there's like all these like dead bodies everywhere on like a cover, I just probably go, no, I'm no, thank you. But if it's something maybe more like older, more traditional, maybe more like Psycho or something that has like complex character mindsets, maybe to an extent, the Silence of the Lambs, which I never seen. Yeah, I know, I haven't seen like some famous films, I know. But again, I'm more than open-minded, but there's some points where I just feel like the hacking and the bodies being thrown everywhere it's just too much for me. But all of the other genres, I think I'm more of in the camp of appreciating and more accepting to those genres. Even though there's every single genre has movies that I don't particularly care for. I just think that the horror movie genre in particular is just more. There's just more of a wider range of things that have been advertised for those films that are hard for me to cling on to, and hard for me to invest my time into. So that's, I think, all I can say about movies. Now I wanted to briefly discuss music, and I know I do a lot of random stuff with music on my channel, but I actually am open-minded to music as I am to movies as well. I just think I have more of a sound that I think it's just the sound, and I think that just has to do with me liking more of rock music and the rock genre and like alternative music more than I like things that are more mainstream now. I really do like the alternative stuff, and I like it when they play that stuff on the radio, and I like really how cool all the alternative stuff that they're coming up with sounds. So I'm fairly pleased with music for the most part, but I just don't really listen to a lot of the mainstream or things that maybe everybody else listens to. I'm just more of an alternative person. I've always liked the style a lot better. I think it's just better composed, and it just sounds better. I feel like a lot of the mainstream is very repetitive. But even though I do find myself enjoying some mainstream music, I think I am more, I think there's just a greater variety in alternative than there is to the mainstream, because oftentimes the mainstream has to do with dance music, and music that's fairly repetitive, and I guess I don't really care for repetitive music, and I find myself enjoying more alternatives where the sound is different and the lyrics are interesting, and I find them to be more insightful, and they give me a lot more I guess energy and they give me something more that I can hold on to, because I feel like the time and investment is there. Whereas a lot of the mainstream music, I feel there's not really a lot of time and effort put into a lot of what comes out. And I don't really see the potential so much in a lot of the mainstream music compared to a lot of what I hear on alternative stations. So, again, that doesn't mean that I dislike everything mainstream. I do like some things that are mainstream, and I do like there are some things in alternative that I don't particularly care for. But I think I'm very open-minded in that sense. I just think I have these certain things where they just kind of bother me, and they're hard for me to take into consideration and say, yeah, I like this song, or I like this artist. But as far as genres go, I think I just identify myself in the more alternative category. I like more acoustic guitar, piano, bass, and electric guitar, and rock music, and classic rock, and some rock from today as well. And I find myself enjoying those things more. And I found myself liking some pop too, and some like indie as well. Indie's also very enjoyable to certain extents, and yeah, I think I'm fairly more balanced on that spectrum. I try to find songs that really do appeal to me, and what I really do find to be good. But I know there will be people that will say that they don't like the particular song. And I understand that. I just don't think I dislike one genre over the other. I just think that more is being done. I think more compositionally in the alternative section than there really is in a lot of the mainstream. Even though some mainstream I find to be very good. So that's really all I think I can say about music genres in general. They're mostly, even though I do have more of a side for these different sounds, and I may not care necessarily for something like rap or hip hop, where I find the beats to be too repetitive. But again, open-minded about anything. I just think I have more of a tendency to put myself in one category over another. Again, it's the same thing with, like, Spider-Man 3. It's the same kind of a feeling, and I kind of explain my reasoning behind that. So, if you like mainstream music, more power to you. I like some too, but I find myself liking more alternative than I do mainstream. But if you do like mainstream, great, more power to you. Totally respect your opinion. But I think that's really all I can say about music genres in general, for the most part. And some of my favorite book genres are very varied. I do like historical fiction. I do like having female leads as in books. I mean, a lot of the time I do have female leads that are in books for some reason. Even though I will find, books like Harry Potter where the lead is a boy figure and it's more focused on boys than girls, really. And I find myself enjoying that as well. It kind of just all depends. But I think I'm fairly open to, like, thriller and teen novels and all that stuff. I just think there's certain points in the line where I draw the sand and say, that's just not me. I just can't embrace that. It's just not part of what I would consider myself liking. and that has to deal with certain teen books as well as some historical fiction as well. Um, Even though I do find myself, even though I do maybe have problems with some, I still find myself enjoying them to a certain extent. But there are certain things, I think, within teen novels that can become a little bit too formulaic. In particular, I think with Twilight, I don't have really a strong opinion on it so much. I read the first two books, and then after I read the first two books, I just said I can't read this anymore. I just could not do it. The characters didn't care, story didn't care. Yeah, I just couldn't like it. No matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't like it. But I totally accept if somebody does. If you like it, that's great, good for you. But just did nothing for me. Just did absolutely nothing. And I kind of understand the problems that people would have with certain teen novels and them being too formulaic, having all these different like kind of formulas. The new girl, like we mentioned, like a lot of teen books have that. But even though some of them maybe do involve formula, I still kind of like it when they can produce something that's kind of effective and just well written. And I think the problem that I had with Twilight is just it wasn't really, it just wasn't that well written for me. I just didn't care for Stephenie Meyer's writing, and I just didn't care for the characters all that much too. But again, people totally have different opinions on this. I don't feel one way strongly or another about Twilight. I just don't find myself caring for it that much. And I think that's really I think that's the issue as far as being in the teen genres, is sometimes they just become too formulaic, and they set things up, and then when they do set things up, they set it up in a way where there's hardly any investment. And I think that's really what I had problems with, I guess, in the Twilight-y series, is that I couldn't really hold on to anything, kind of like in Spider-Man 3. I just didn't care. Yeah. And as far as historical fiction goes, there's also problems as well. I totally understand if people portray characters not really in the sense of a realistic light. I think I've heard people complain about the Other Boy Girl, and they've said that Anne's character is not a very accurate representation of who she was, and I totally understand that. I still ended up actually liking the book, even though I know that it does have these kinds of character problems, in particular with Anne's character, because she is really mean in that book. She's like evil in that book, and I totally understand people's perspectives on that. But I still find myself sympathizing with the other characters. I still find myself clinging on to a lot of other things. I think the only problem really was and people have really issues with, was really how Anne was interpreted. But I don't really mind if they switch characters around and play with history. I think if people want to really learn about history, they should pick up a history book, or they should research history. And the problem though with history is that we don't really exactly know certain aspects of people's personalities, and sometimes they're done in a realistic way, and in a way that maybe works more with people who maybe read up on history, and then there may be some interpretations that don't. With this one, I haven't really read much about the actual history. I know a little bit, but I don't know details and things like that. But for the most part, I think Anne's character in that particular book wasn't the most nicest character in general, and maybe Maybe Anne Boleyn is rolling somewhere in her grave right now. Don't know. But again, it's all really opinion based. And the reason why I still ended up liking the book is it's kind of in the same way of how I like The Little Mermaid. Because I find a lot of the other stuff that's in it to be interesting and cool. And then they just have that one character who's maybe sometimes a main character that makes you cringe. Even though Anne made me cringe a lot more than Ariel ever did, and it probably will, I still see the problems with, like, Ariel, and I know that sometimes books and movies tend to do this. They make this one character more stand out in the unlikable sense that everybody suddenly says this is a bad movie just because of this one character and because of this one aspect. But I like looking at all the aspects before I make a decision as to whether or not I like or dislike something. That's how I view it. But if you found Anne Boleyn's character to be a good representation and you don't think she was evil, well, I'm more power to you. For me, I felt like that she was a little bit more on the mean side and not really the nicest person in the world. But I still found myself enjoying a lot of other aspects of the book. So there are books that sometimes it's always that one little aspect or a few aspects that really kind of judge. And it's sort of in the same way how I see kind of music and how I see movies as well. It's all kind of based on if I can find a majority of things that I like, then I'll like it. If I can find more pros, then I'll seem to have some investment into it. But there are other times where that doesn't happen for me, and it may not, and it may happen with others, but it also may not. And some people actually may find themselves feeling like that the cons outweigh the pros, or the pros outweigh the cons, whichever side you're on. But for the most part, I think my favorite book genres in particular, even though I know that they have problems, are like teen or thriller, even though I know thriller has problems as well. And every genre has books have problems. I still find myself enjoying a lot of what I'm finding for the most part, more than disliking a lot of what I find, as far as teen thriller and historical fiction is concerned, and series books as well, and fantasy I find to be very engaging and cool as well. But I understand if people have issues with whatever genre they may have issues with. But I personally find myself enjoying a lot of what I'm finding for the most part. Instead of disliking it, a lot of the books I own are books that I actually find myself liking. Even though I will find some teen books where I do find like the characters to just be so spoiled or so selfish, and it's hard for me to really cling on to them or find anything interesting about them, because again, I feel like that they're just more mean-spirited and not really the most caring, and I don't sympathize with them or care about them. So there are certain books that I kind of own where I do feel like the characters that some authors make are not really the characters that I particularly care for. But for the most part, from what I have, from these kinds of genres that I've explained, I do find myself liking a lot, and I don't really have like major issues with them. But I think that's really all I can say about book genres. I don't really read a lot of different book genres. I feel like I should read more, but I guess I find myself enjoying more historical fiction, teen, or thriller than any of the other genres. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say about them, even though I know I do have issues sort of with each genre. But those are the things that I kind of wanted to kind of briefly address to you and kind of just tell you a little bit more of my personal feelings towards. Now, I wanted to discuss, before I sort of end this video, just about what's sort of to be expected in December. It's kind of going to change. It's going to be, I think, less movies. I think I do too many movies. I think I just touch too much on movies. And not so much on other things, even though I'd like to do that. So I was thinking, instead of like what most, and I've seen this a lot through critics and criticisms, that oftentimes people will say why they don't like a film, but then they won't figure out ways to like change it or alter it or do it in a way that maybe they would find to be more productive or would maybe work more for them. And I kind of wanted to do that as a segment where I talk about what I would have done, and that's kind of what it will be called, like what I would have done if I were to have made this film, or if I were to have structured it, how I would have made it maybe differently. So it may be kind of so that maybe people would be more, I guess, maybe appreciative of it, or maybe people would think, oh, that might actually be a better route to go. And I wanted to kind of explain my reasoning behind certain movies and just explain like how I would have structured it better. Because due to the criticism that it's probably given, or sometimes even these films are maybe even given praise, but sometimes you do see kind of the issues with them, and I think there's always a room for improvement. No film is going to be perfect at all. I don't think any film exists is perfect, but I do kind of like the idea of, okay, how would I make it better? And I think I was thinking of doing a segment on that where I discussed that. And as far as anything else goes, I think that is maybe the only segment that I'll add in, and then I'm going to maybe drop another segment. Like I might drop like the underrated film category, because I felt like a lot of the films that I've already done, I don't think I could really do more underrated ones, even though I maybe could, but or I'll just drop maybe the regular movie review segment. I'm not sure. Again, this is kind of all up in the air right now, but I think for the most part, I think it's something that I'm definitely considering, and I would love to hear anybody's suggestions on that. But I think that's really the only things that I'm really going to alter, or I'm really going to change. I really like that I have this music segment. I really like how I have a book segment. I like how I have a movie segment. I like how I have a random segment. I like how I have these other things. But I think it'd be nice to sort of do something different with like the movies, because oftentimes you'll hear people review it and then they'll say whether they like it or dislike it, and then give various reasons as to why. And I kind of wanted to do something different in where I say like what I would have done instead. And again, I know that obviously I'm not like a movie, I'm not a movie writer, I'm not a movie director, obviously, but I'm just kind of stating like what my opinion would be and where I would maybe take something from and what I would do with it. but not explain like every single detail and basically lay out the entire movie for you. But it's just to give you an idea of maybe the different things that maybe could have been done, but never were really explored, or things that they could have been steered into one direction, but instead they went in the other direction, and it made a lot of people mad. and then I would talk about the direction that maybe it should have taken, that kind of a thing. And if anybody wants to suggest a movie that I do, where I say like what it should have done or what I would have done, more than happy to suggest that. If you have any suggestions on any of these segments, whether it's music, movies, books, anything, more than happy to answer your comments, questions, or concerns. But I think that's really all I can say for the most part about what is really expected to come. And before I end this, until December, it's kind of sad that it's kind of coming to an end, and I was just so mad when I had to get my computer done and then I had to delay it. But I'm happy that it's here and that I'm finally making this. But I just wanted to thank everybody for commenting, for watching, for their support, their feedback, anything. It's very appreciative. I really do this for fun. I don't do this because because of other reasons. I just do this because I enjoy it. I enjoy looking at movies, I enjoy looking at books, I enjoy looking at all these different things that are very more creative, because I'm a little more of a creative person. I've always been a books, movies, music girl. I haven't really been into sports so much, even though I do like fitness and I do like things like volleyball or something like that. I just like a lot of the creative areas a lot better for me. I think I have a more creative mindset. So it's really nice to have this opportunity to talk and just basically state things and express things, and I know that there will be people who will say differently and totally have their opinions on whatever, and I totally understand that, and I'm more than happy to hear anybody out. But it's just so nice to hear people talk and hear people's feedback, and to hear people say things, and to know that people are putting some time and some energy into what I do, and I think that's really nice to have, and it's very enjoyable. And I want to thank everybody, from the people who've watched on thatguywiththeglasses.com. You're all awesome. Anyone from YouTube that's watched, you're just as awesome, just as great. And I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for the kind of support that I've gotten. And it's really nice to have that kind of support and that kind of feedback. And I'm just really happy. I'm just really happy. I'm so happy that I was able to do this. And I was really scared of doing this at first. I was kind of like, what will people say? What will people do? But I kind of realized that I am confident as to who I am. I don't need to change. I don't need to change who I am just to satisfy somebody else. I'm happy with who I am, and I think everybody else should be kind of happy with who they are. And I think this channel has allowed me to express that more, and express things that I usually don't express on a daily basis. And it's nice to express them, and express my feelings and express my concerns and all these different things. I think those things are important, and I think they're important to other people, especially when I can give people something like a movie or a book or something that maybe that they'll find cool or that they'll find interesting. I'm always about like positivity, and I'm a very positive person. Excuse me, very optimistic. Sometimes I can be stubborn to a certain extent, and I understand that if I come off as that, I'm not trying to be. But I just do have my personal opinions, but I like keeping them more to myself. I don't really like talking about them. But there are times where I will express an opinion, and I'll just say, that's just how I feel. And I can't really change that. But at the same time, I feel like that this overall was a great opportunity to do. I love talking about Disney. Disney has always been part of my nostalgia, and it's just been great to go back, and I'm definitely going to do more Disney. Definitely check out that, because it's going to be there. And I'm gonna just leave off from where I started, from the Black Cauldron, which was probably like a really big low, unfortunately, and kind of see how Disney kind of went from there. And I think it's kind of interesting. I think I entered sort of the halfway point of what Disney has done, so it'll be interesting what happens with the second half, for the most part. And I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm really hyped for that. So definitely, if you love Disney, definitely going to be doing more of that. But I do find myself really appreciating to be able to do this, and I'm just very thankful, and I just want to thank everybody. It's really a video for you guys. Just a very it's just been a really nice opportunity to do it, and I'm happy that I was able to do it. And I know that and I'm sorry if this video is kind of a little bit longer, but I felt like that I needed to sort of express some things that I've kind of reflected on as I've been doing all of these reviews, and I think talking about all of these random things when it comes to the things that I've done on my channel, I think really helps kind of bring that sort of to light, and sort of brings out an end to sort of what I've been doing for the most part. And I've been learning too, and I've been realizing that in certain parts of my reviews I do make mistakes at times, but if any mistake comes up, I will always try to correct it, if ever it comes up. And I know that errors have come up, and I make sure that if it is an error, then I would put it in the description to tell you that I made a mistake. But for the most part, I think I have grown, and I think I have learned a lot. And I'm just happy to be here, and I'm happy to be part of this kind of community. And I'm looking forward to doing more. It's just now it's the time to end it for a little while, because school is definitely going to be #1 priority right now. School and friends and all that stuff, that's going to be #1 for me right now. And once I have more time, and once I have more energy, I think I can definitely bring some more material to the front. And what I will probably try to do is I will probably try to make sort of an update video as to exactly how the structure is going to be laid out in December of what I'm going to be doing with movies and books and music, because I like making sure again that I have this kind of setup and kind of this organization. Like I do every Monday this, I do every Tuesday this and that. So that's really how it's going to work. But I think overall that's really what I can say about all these different things that I've been mentioning. But I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time, your effort, your concerns, anything that came up. I really do appreciate it. But I think that's really all I can say. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. But until December, everybody, bye-bye now. And thank you.